Afternoon, everyone, and good morning to our United States Mojo colleagues and partners. It is once again a very distinct honor for me to welcome all of you and our special guest, Ambassador Esme Chombo, who generously presented at our first webinar last year and is kindly attending today again. Thank you so much, Ambassador. We so appreciate your participation. I also wanted to thank our guest speakers, Dr. Bertha Letzlower from AgriCETA and Forest Branch, as well as our agripreneurs, and of course, our wonderful participants. I hope that you are all feeling refreshed and energized after the holiday period, and wishing you all fresh thinking and much success for 2025. I've made a short list of many items, but with fresh thinking, they could open up new opportunities and solutions for future challenges. We have raised some very important issues at our past webinars in order to inspire and to uplift our agripreneurs of demonstrating successful examples and models, but at the same time identifying challenges. And as we start this year, we are looking at a fresh thinking that could open up new opportunities and solutions. So some of the ideas that I put down include the effective and efficient application of circular economy models. Now, we're all familiar with the circular economy, but what I believe is lacking is the application of these demonstrating resource efficiency, recycling, and sustainability using available technology and methods. I believe we have an incredible opportunity to unlock and mobilize the potential of thousands and hundreds of thousands of small-scale farmers. And these webinars and other fora will identify challenges and opportunities which we can all address together. I wanted to emphasize the importance of personal health and wellness as we tackle these tasks. It is something that is so prevalent today in terms of general health and mental health as we navigate these difficulties and issues in our lives, which are so full, but we need to ensure our mental fitness and resilience. Very importantly, these webinars will identify and share reskilling and lifelong learning, continuous education and reskilling, particularly digital learning and virtual exchange, such as this webinar, allowing participants from different countries to interact and collaborate, broadening their perspectives. And last but not least of the items that I just identified is the importance of sustainable investing. There is an increasing and growing focus on sustainable and impact investing, with investors increasingly considering the societal and environmental impact. And I believe that small-scale farmers can have a huge impact on this. So how do we achieve this? We have to find a balance between driving outcomes and cultivating connection. And I use the analogy of a needle with its sharp point or cutting edge of technology innovation, the sharp edge making bold decisions and focusing on metrics, and the round end of the needle representing the softer soul dimension, reflecting humility and humanity. So in addition to the results-orientated sides, driving outcomes, making tough decisions, and focusing on metrics like efficiency, return on investment, and growth, on the flip side, the softer soul side represents empathy, purpose, connection, relationship, and trust. And I hope that these webinars will facilitate and create a culture that resonates deeply within all of us as we work together with colleagues, peers, workers, and stakeholders. And together, combined, these traits become complementary forces that empower each one of us to navigate the opportunities and the challenges while inspiring those around us to reach new heights. So let's not be ducks quacking and complaining in the pond, but with fresh thinking and ideas, we can soar like eagles, stretching far beyond our reach. I wish you all a very stimulating and exciting webinar. It is my real honor and privilege to introduce a colleague, Dr. Bertha Litzloa from AgriSeta in South Africa. I'm pleased to mention on a personal level that the University of Johannesburg, which I represent, has recently signed a memorandum of understanding with AgriSeta, with Dr. B, who, as she is affectionately known, represents. And Dr. B, I think this is going to be the first of many interactions between ourselves and, of course, our wider partners. And so Dr. B has got an impressive CV, that she is the Executive Manager, Corporate Services at the Agricultural Sector for Education and Training Authority. And she has had 20 years experience in the field of human resource management and development in the public sector and local government. Her strong passions for skills development is so appropriate for webinars like this. And her passion about continuous learning and organizational growth is a key factor that we want to promote. Dr. B, it is such a pleasure to welcome you, and we look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof, for the nice introduction. And greetings to everyone, our panel members, as well as all the participants. I'm going to share my screen. I hope it is now visible. Like I have been introduced, I'm from the Agricultural Sector, Education and Training Authority. This is a public entity that has been established in terms of the Skills Development Act, and its sole mandate is to capacitate the agricultural sector with skills that will promote the economy and ensuring that there is food security even for the future generation. Just to fly through my presentation, this is the table of content. I'll be covering mostly starting with the challenges that we are facing as agripreneurs, as well as the economy in the Southern Africa, the keys to unlocking the economic growth, opportunities, success stories, and of course, the solution and recommendation for supporting the agripreneurs. Now, I'm deliberately starting with the challenges just to capture your attention and focusing on the fact that most of the countries within the Southern Africa are depending mostly on imports for food security. And here, my concern has been on the fact that as we are, as the countries like South Africa, we are regarded as a major agricultural, maize producer. But if you can check, of late, we have imported tons and tons of maize to our country, and even other countries, the southern countries like Southern African countries like your Zambia, which is is regarded as one of the most leading maize producers in Africa. Your Botswana, Namibia, these are the countries that, from time to time would export maize from the United States. And, I'm saying these are some of the challenges that are supposed to ignite us to be able to make sure that food security is increased. I'm gonna fly through to the keys to unlocking the economic growth for entrepreneurs. I have identified several of them, but I'm just gonna deliberately talk to the first one there on innovative and entrepreneurial approach to agriculture. You know, we can all admit that, you know, unlocking the economic growth requires a comprehensive approach that will definitely address both individual as well as, you know, the unique challenges that whether agripreneurs or small scale farmers are facing, you know, but at the same time empowering them to thrive. So my take on this matter on innovative and entrepreneurial approach is that as entrepreneurs, as agripreneurs, or even small scale farmers, we just need to make the best of what we have. You know, that if you can listen carefully, I'll be talking to the success stories that I came across with in terms of in the agricultural sector. So of importance is that one needs to make the best out of what it's having. My question to you as our participants will be, what is at your disposal that you can use to curb, you know, as an aspiring either an agripreneur or a commercial farmer? What is it that is in your hands that you can basically utilize to increase, you know, food security or to reduce the dependence of our countries, our various countries, into the imports? So there are a lot of keys that one can be able to talk about, because we need to ensure that the dependence on imports, especially for staple food, its commodities, it's basically reduced. Let's then move to the next slide. It's the opportunities that I have identified for agripreneurs in the Southern Africa. You know, our agripreneurs play a vital role in the global food system. You know, here I'm just going to highlight a few, you know, for growing the businesses, improving the food security, as well as building a resilient and equitable or even sustainable agricultural sector. I'm not going to mention all of them because of time, but, you know, my bullet number 3 there talks to the government initiatives and policies supporting agricultural development, as well as access to the new market and technology. Here I'm saying most of our countries in the Southern Africa have a wealth of opportunities to expand and thrive through innovation and diversification. Of importance, it's for one to identify the gap and be able to come up with a solution to close certain gaps. And that definitely lead me to our success stories there. I've also provided a link to one of our magazines in agriculture, there where, you know, women have started as, you know, from their backyard, and they are now growing their businesses just by starting with a few crops in their backyard. We've got young women who are doing very well in South Africa. The issues of hydroponic there, you know, there's a success story of a woman who started that in the rooftop of the building where she stays. And, you know, you go to other countries like Zambia, there are a lot of success stories. And then the one that I like the most, you know, this is innovation at its best, is the group of entrepreneurs in Botswana who developed a mobile app for the farmers, you know, the small scale farmers, to access the market. For me, this is innovation at its best. It enabled the small scale farmers to be connected to the market. They saw an opportunity, they saw a gap, and they bridged it in terms of information, in terms of logistics, as well as marketing. Now, coming to the solutions and recommendations, let me indicate that there is definitely a need. Prof. Rudolph has indicated that AgriSeta and the University of Johannesburg have entered into a memorandum of understanding to ensure that we collaborate in terms of building capacity in the agricultural sector. That is true. There should be, short learning programs that are offered. Other universities are already offering them for free. There should be benchmarking, with the best industry practices that can be able to assist us. There is also a need to strengthen, industry partnerships, and that on its own will assist in incubating, be it the agripreneurs, be it the small scale farmers, to be able to become the commercial farmers. Moving to conclusion, I'm saying that agripreneurs can definitely transform the Southern Africa's economy. And there is, of course, a potential to create jobs, to stimulate the economic growth, to promote sustainable agricultural practices. However, taking note that there are still challenges that needs to be addressed. We cannot turn a blind eye on that one. And concluding by saying that with the right support, and government policies, funding, infrastructure development, here I'm basically indicating that we need to activate means of even incentivizing, the best practices within the agricultural sector. With the right support, definitely our agripreneurs can unlock the potential of economic growth and development in the Southern Africa. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. B. That was a great presentation. At this time, I would like to welcome you all. I'm Elizabeth Namaona, and I'll be your moderator for this webinar. So if you have any other questions for our upcoming speakers, and even the one that has just finished right now, just keep those questions, or you can drop them in our Q&A at the bottom right there. And we are going to take up all the questions at the end. Just some few housekeeping items. Just know that when you are sending out your questions, please tell us your name and the organization that you are representing. That will help us quite a lot. So the way our webinar today is structured, we are going to have 3 agripreneurs that are going to take us through their business models, the biggest challenges that they have ever encountered in their agripreneurship journey, and what advice can they give to us, the agripreneurs that are right here in the webinar for 2025. Because this webinar, we are looking forward on how best we can make this year successful as agripreneurs. So please take that note. So we are getting to our first agripreneur, Faith Musa, who is an award-winning musician in Malawi. He's dedicated to sustainable farming practices, production of high-quality tree seedlings, and also organic produce. Over to you, Faith Musa. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So my name is Faith Musa, as it has been said. And I'm an agripreneur, and I'm an artist, and I'm a founder of Chemusa Farm. Now, I'm very passionate about sustainable agriculture and environmental stewardship. And I come from a very beautiful country, Malawi, blessed with a lot of natural resources and biodiversity, but we have not been spared from the effects of climate change, unemployment, and even food security. And every time I thought about this, it troubled me greatly. It troubled me because I felt like there has to be something I could do to contribute to employment, something I could do to contribute to food security, something that we could do to mitigate the effects of climate change for the communities that were living around us. Now, I have 2 farms, and I decided to dedicate these farms to this cause. So welcome to my journey. I wanted a model that was low cost, scalable, and sustainable. So I went into rabbit farming using special rabbit housing. I was able to harvest rabbit manure for organic fertilizer, rabbit urine for organic pesticide, and this helped me to enter into some businesses selling seedlings, organic manure, rabbits, and vegetables. This proved to me that this could be a good tool for uplifting low-income households from poverty sustainably. And now we have expanded to our indigenous tree forest, where we're using drone technology and AI in sustainability and environmental conservation. So on one farm, we are using low-cost innovation to produce organic fertilizer and pesticide from rabbit urine and manure. We are producing tree seedlings for sale and also for our own afforestation efforts. And we are also leveraging technology in preserving a beautiful indigenous tree forest blessed with indigenous fruits that we are working on marketing, medicinal herbs, and a rich biodiversity. And we have a continued commitment going into 2025 and even further. We have a continued commitment to sustainability. And we are also investing further into precision agriculture, drone technology, AI, things that we have been using, but we would also want to go further in our sustainability efforts. You and I, from everything that I have said, will believe me that this would be impossible if you don't have a team that you can effectively work with, a team that you can trust. So as a farm, as an agripreneur, and also as a business brand, we're committed to leadership training. We want to train our farmers to create ethically excellent leaders, environmental stewards filled with integrity and accountable, because we know that that's the only way that we can create these stewards, people with great leadership skills. I'm going to end with this little picture I got from Daniel Motsoane, and thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Faith Musa once again.
Wonderful. That was a great presentation, Faithy. Thank you so much. So as I've already said earlier on, if you have any questions to our speakers, please drop them in the Q&A. Moving forward to our second entrepreneur, Tshepiso Motau. She's a renowned farmer and manufacturer of Moringa products. She showcases her commitment to sustainable agriculture. For It's a Way to Go Sustainable Farming. Over to you, Tshepiso. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tshepiso Motau.
Yes, please go ahead, Tshepi.
Oh, thank you. I think I got disconnected for a moment. My name is Tshepiso Motau. I'm a farmer and a manufacturer, and I'm a managing director of MML Pty Ltd. MML Moringa is a company which is based in a village called Madidi. Madidi is a village in the Northwest Province in Pretoria. So what we do, we produce Moringa products we have products like soap, Moringa Health Oil, Moringa Powder, and Moringa Herbal Tea. So the business was founded by my grandmother in 2012. And really it was started as a necessity because she was looking for another community project to feed her orphanage. It so happened that there was a family friend who was on tour in India, and he stumbled upon learning about Moringa benefits. So he came back with 5 seeds and gave them to my grandmother to start the company. I joined my grandmother later. So someone might ask, what problem are we solving with Moringa? Our solution is to bring clinically approved Moringa products to the market. Secondly, we are fostering agricultural sustainability. And thirdly, we are promoting health and wellness through natural, ethically produced products. One of the challenges that we came across, and we are still having that challenge, is water in the farm. We don't have consistent water. We are currently looking at re-drilling our borehole, which has been there, it was never used. And the second one is capital, which is almost everyone's, every agripreneur's problem. So what I would like to share, the three advisors, I'll put them in a point form of 6. I'll be very swift because my time is almost up. So I would give advice to upcoming agripreneurs to understand the industry. Take time to research the industry. Number 2, start small and gradually scale up. Number 3, embrace technology and innovation. Don't be afraid. We are at the 5th wave of 5IR, 5th industrial revolution. Don't be afraid of AI. Don't be afraid of drones. These are the things that you're going to need as an agripreneur. And number 4, network with other agripreneurs. Build a strong network. It will open up opportunities and help you with partnerships and collaboration. Number 5, seek mentorship. Learn from experienced agripreneurs and seek guidance. Number 6, remain committed and be passionate. Don't lose that zeal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tshepi. That was so insightful. And I think we are learning here. I believe we have a lot of young people also on this webinar, so they are taking note of that. And if they have questions, they will ask you at the end. May I quickly jump to our agripreneur number 3, Daniel Motswane, a leading figure in agriculture and community development. And he's very passionate about empowering communities through oyster mushroom farming. Thank you. Over to you, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Faith, and thanks, colleagues, for this opportunity for us to be sitting here today and sharing what we went through. My name is Daniel Motswane from Africa Rising Trading, and I'm the founder of Africa Rising Trading, where I'm a social entrepreneur focusing on community development projects, and where I say that our culture is agriculture. And then what we do is we launched a program or a project titled Reindustrializing Communities Through Mushroom Farming, where we do capacity building, farming and processing of the mushrooms, especially the oyster mushrooms within different communities. So the problem that we are addressing, okay, firstly, our story began in Malawi in 2018 in Kasungu. where a couple from Oklahoma came to train us on mushroom farming. And then we started doing our program in 2022. And then what we are solving as a problem is that I've experienced that, we experience inequality gap in our society, which leads to social, mental, emotional, physical, psychological, financial, and economical ills. Even environmental ills, which then leads to African accepting poverty as a way of life. And then how we solve that problem is through training and capacity building through industrializing communities and bridging that gap to mitigate that challenges that I've mentioned. And then we do this through gender equality number 5, which is SDG number 5, where our project is embedded on gender equality number 5, and then also where we driven by love, to do what we're doing to capacitate all these communities that we are working with. Our project is aligned to 15 of the 17 SDGs. This is because the fungi industry, colleagues, is valued at $57 trillion globally. And then you can see a lot of impact that we have there. And then we are also aligned to the Africa Agenda 2063 aspirations, especially aspiration number 1, which talks about Africa, prosperous Africa, based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. And then this is our products that we do, from our control environment agriculture, our fresh mushrooms, which we then process into different products, including but not limited to the oyster mushroom bread and the oyster mushroom burgers. I've recently developed oyster mushroom jelly, and then we've got quite a wide range of products that we're doing from our primary production, which is also the innovation that we're coming up with. And then we have a number of achievements, locally and internationally, where we've got over 1,000 community members across the country, mainly in rural areas that we have capacitated. And also on the international front, maybe to mention there, I was the first African to be invited in India International Mushroom Days, to represent not only South Africa, but Africa at that event. And then on publicity, we had lots of publicity around publicity in different media platforms, which is also a great achievement from our side. So the challenges that one faced was the launching this project initially in 2022, but then I mitigated that by bringing in a scientist who was also a microbiologist to come and train the first group that we did, and then also getting people to register for the program, because we're charging them just small fee for us to get to them. And then I mitigated that by using my own funds, to get around to all these villages that I've traveled to across the country. And also the emotional burnout was also one of the challenges. But because, doing things on your own and not having any financial support from anyone, then I managed to do that. My why kept me going. And then my advice to agripreneurs is that know who you are and what your purpose is and what problems you need to solve. And then the second one, whether you are starting or growing or going on, you need to think. So it means that this starts in the mind, position your mind, then you start visualizing what you're thinking about. You start doing a research on what you visualized. You start documenting what you have researched, and then you start. Starting, you don't have to wait for funding. Funding will find you along the way. Over 3 years, we've never been funded by anyone. And then invest in self-development, network, and embrace technology, as my colleague has said. Take care of yourself and your mental health, because that is the only thing you have, to get going. And thank you so much. We are really open for partnerships with different organizations to come on board and to capacitate all these communities and to make the transformation that we want to see in our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. That was quite insightful as well. I think it was also practical, taking care for ourselves as in agripreneurs. There's always emotional burnout. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So at this time, we are inviting our speaker, Forrest P. Branch. He is a global business operations and finance professional. He's also a co-founder and managing director of Co-Agriculture, Co-Agrisa, a private partnership formed in 2017 in DRC. And he's also an experienced presenter and TEDx speaker. Over to you, Forrest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you, Moja, Michelle and her team, and all of the people that have presented so far. I find your content very, very interesting. Thank you also to all of those that are listening today. I've been on both sides of the equation. I've been in the audience. I've also been a presenter on many occasions. So as they're loading the slides, I think my slides are being loaded. I'm going to spend about 5 or 6 minutes on the slides because I want to make sure that everyone has a full understanding of what we mean when we talk about the value chain. And so let's begin there. So the value chain segments are all around you. Whether you can identify them or not, they are all around you. And as a result, you can think of the segments in the value chain like a bicycle chain. The bicycle chain is made up of a metal chain with scores of links, depending on the size of the bicycle. And so that allows people to participate in agribusiness, which is different from agriculture. Agriculture is science. Agriculture is precipitation, it's nematodes, it's microbes, it's shallow root systems, it's all of that, nutrients, root uptake. But agribusiness is commercializing or meeting market demand. And so they're slightly different. So you can either be a direct player or you can be an indirect player. And the other thing is that the agribusiness value chain is constantly expanding, it's growing. I came to Namibia, I came to Africa in 1989 in September. To Malawi. I was there leading an IFC agribusiness project about a month ago, and it's really changed. So the agribusiness value chain is ever expanding. It's 24/7. Even when the grocery stores are closed, the chain is active, and it's constantly innovating. We can go to the next slide. So I want to take something that's very common. Forgive me if my slides appear to be very elementary, but I want to make sure that we accommodate everybody. And when we say the agribusiness value chain is all around you, we're serious about that. So we have approximately 1,000 KFC stores within the Southern Africa region, market region. And so this is a common example. When you walk into the store, you may not realize that you're probably engaging at least a half a dozen or more segments of the value chain. But at a high level, there are 6 different components you need to be aware of. One is the inbound logistics. I'll talk about that in a second. The operations, the outbound logistics, the marketing and sales, in some cases, service or after service. And then the combination of all of those 5 components leaves us with something called value, or value addition, or value add. So inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, service, and value. Let me focus on inbound logistics for a moment. When I was a teenager, I lived in a rural community, and I lived about 20 some odd kilometers away from a small town. I worked in a burger restaurant there. And at least 4 days a week, early in the morning around 7, a truck would come in called Distron. And it was a huge lorry, what we call an 18-wheeler in the States, and it was full of frozen beef patties, large and small, cheese, dairy, content for the milkshakes. I mean, they had about 20 different products in addition to paper containers for the small fries, for the large fries, what you all call chips. Next slide, please. And so in that kind of ecosystem or value chain, I realized that there were so many different players that were involved in producing a burger. They say 3,500 companies on average are required to produce an automobile. There are probably about 30 or 40 companies that are required to produce a burger. And so on the inbound logistics, if you can see the highlight at the top, it says sourcing, procurement, and transportation of raw materials. When you eat chips, you're not thinking about the farmer that produced the potato. You're not thinking about the fertilizer supplier. You're not thinking necessarily about the seed supplier that provided the potato seed, the herbicide provider, the diesel provider that provided fuel for the tractor supplier, the tractor mechanic that comes out when the farmer breaks down in the middle of the field. All of these are opportunities. They are low-hanging fruit within the agribusiness value chain. All of these. You can participate in an industry directly as a potato farmer or indirectly as an input or service provider. Let's go to the next one. I think it says conversion of raw materials to final product. So when we get to the burger restaurant, we're not eating potatoes, we're eating chips. There are companies that provide the service of peeling, processing. Yes, please go back one slide. I'm sorry. That provide those services of processing the potatoes and then packaging them in plastic bags. One of the major suppliers in Southern Africa is a company called McCain's. And McCain's is the single largest frozen chip supplier to the big restaurants, KFC, Spur, Hungry Lion, King Pie, 7mm catering cut. Those are the typical, I think you get 5 1 kg bags per box. Then you have the box supplier, the cardboard. We have a company in Namibia called Corrugated Namibia. They provide the boxes. So you don't necessarily have to jump into a high capital required investment in order to be an agribusiness. Next slide, please. And at the farm level, these are just some of the basics. I'm going to start in the center. There are, as my colleague Daniel mentioned, he's working at the farm level. And so he's providing a tremendous service to farmers that can produce, but outside of production, they are faced with constraints when it comes to distribution. So having a service, a pickup service where someone comes to the farm at 4:45, 5 o'clock in the morning in the cool of the day, you're handling horticulture, so the temperature needs to be right. And they are picking up what you've been packaging the night before or early in the morning, and they're taking it to an aggregator. That is an absolute lifesaver. There are some markets where I'm working in the Democratic Republic of Congo and around the southern region, where transporters sometimes charge the farmer in exorbitant amount. And so the farmer loses a great deal of revenue on this service. So someone that's providing a competitively priced essential service like this is key. So if you have a secondhand vehicle, you don't even have to have a bakkie or a pickup truck. If you have a car that can take maybe 200 kilos, 300 kilos of onions or beetroot or potato to an aggregator or to the market, that's just, even if it's just 10 kilometers away, that's a huge service and you'll be compensated for that. Taking those potatoes to an aggregator, to a supermarket depot where there is sufficient cool storage, or if it's a meat product, if you're picking up sheep or pork or beef carcasses, goat carcasses, and you're taking them to market, you are in the cattle industry, you're in the livestock industry, you're just an indirect player. And then if we go to the extreme left, you see these beautiful strawberries that we have pictured here in the polyurethane containers. So packaging is probably somewhere for every dollar that is made in agribusiness, packaging is somewhere between 10 and 20%. So supplying companies that package goods, sometimes at the farm level, if you go back to the middle picture with the onions, that netting, those products are sold out of South Africa, they're sold out of China. In fact, if you buy the machinery and the polymer inputs, you can actually manufacture this type of packaging and sell it to area farmers. But all of these, I'm highlighting these images because I want to give you an understanding that it is very basic in terms of the indirect opportunities that exist. It's a competitive market and it's a growing industry. When I came to South Africa many, many years ago in 1990, the population was, I think, barely 20 million. Today it's 60 million. When I entered Namibia in 1993, the population was 1.2 million. Today it's 3.2 million. We can move to the next slide. So here are some other examples of low-hanging fruit. These are examples of opportunities that are very low in terms of capital expenditure and upfront startup costs. I received a call from Katima Malilu. It is in the northeastern panhandle of Namibia. The other day, we are in the peak of the mango season, probably going down now. And the young lady contacted me and said, we've got all of these mangoes on the ground. What can we do? What can we do? And so Namibia is an excellent environment, and perhaps your country as well, for drying of fruit and vegetable. We have two deserts, the world's oldest desert, the Namib, and then we share the Kalahari Desert with Botswana to the east. We are not a country that's known for big agricultural production, with the exception of our north and northeastern regions and part of our central regions, which is blessed with sufficient groundwater. But the drying of pumpkin, the drying of beetroot, the drying of mango, all of the drying of tomato, which is probably one of the biggest inputs in Africa. There are 3 inputs that are used almost every day at 6 o'clock in the evening across 54 countries in Africa, across the 1.4 billion population. And that is cooking oil from sunflower, that is tomato, and that is onion. So in an environment where food spoils, tomatoes are not known to keep, especially in warm climates, the same with onion. Drying of these products, first of all, increases food security. It increases access and availability, and it preserves the food just using the natural environment. Once these goods are packaged, they are enormously valuable to the marketplace. I'll just give you an example on the mango. In Namibia, we have approximately 400 or 500 petrol stations, gas stations, and dried fruit is probably marketed better there than the retail grocery chains. 100 grams of dried fruit, it's a mixed dried fruit, apricot, apple, mango, etc., will cost you about 65 Namibian dollars, which is equivalent to the South African rand. And so if you multiply that times 10, that's 650 Namibian dollars or rand for a kilo, and that would be 650,000 Namibian dollars or rand for 1 ton. Think of that on a scaled basis, $65 for 100 grams, $650 for a kilo, and then of course a ton is 1,000 kilos, so 650,000. So for every ton that you're able to package, you're generating, at least if you're a retailer, what's being generated in terms of value is over 500,000 rand per ton. If you look just below the mango, you'll see an image of someone that is repairing a point of sale system, what we call a cash register in the US. And so those services, if you think that Namibia has approximately 400 retail grocery stores across 9 chains, you can imagine if in each store there were approximately 6 tills or cash registers or POSs. Now that's a lot, that's 2,400. And if there were no one to serve them, you can imagine the queuing and the long lines that would create and the frustration. So that's an example of being part of the agribusiness industry, but not necessarily being directly centered as a grower or a processor. And then of course, the last one is an example of a milling. This is a simple milling machine. If I look at the machine, it's probably generating, I don't know, somewhere around 5 or 10 tons a day. For every ton of maize, you'll get about 75 to 80% of human edible maize flour. And then the balance of that, which is what we call chop, that can be blended with soya waste and served as animal feed. So all of these things, if you take a ton of maize, I think the regional price right now, Safex, is somewhere around 350 US dollars, or about 6,500 Rand. That's for the maize. But if you take that ton of maize, once it's been processed into maize flour, I can tell you that I was in Southern Democratic Republic of Congo. I was in Lubumbashi and Kolwezi this past December. And unfortunately, the price of a 25 kg bag of maize flour was almost $25. So that's $1,000 a ton, 40, 25 kg bags in a ton. So you go from about 350 US dollars for a ton of maize, the grain, or about 6,500 Rand. And by the time you sell it as maize flour, it's 19,000 Namibian dollars or South African Rand. So just go to the last slide, please. And then I'm going to spend about 2 minutes just talking about Colagri. So this is an example of what I'm talking about. This is the leading brand of dried fruit in Southern Africa. Montague is a South Africa-based company. I believe they are somewhere in the Western Cape, between, should be Clanwilliam, Citrusdale, and all the way down to Cape Town. So if you look here, mango strips, choice grade, 250 grams. It's retailing, or on the online price is approximately 125 Rand. If we multiply times 4, that will give us a kilo. So you would take that 125, that's going to be about $500 per kilo, or about $500,000 a ton. And so most of the mango that's cultivated in the 14 countries of Southern Africa, or the SADC region, are outside of South Africa. Malawi has some of the best tasting mangoes I've ever eaten. Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, everywhere you go in the region, you'll have mangoes. Angola, the northern part of Namibia, the northeast of Namibia. But yet we have a single brand that's the dominant market player. This is an opportunity in your own areas to consider outlets, retail outlets. In Namibia, small snacks are also sold at pharmacies, but negotiate, talk to your buyers, talk about if you can't brand at the retail level, consider playing a role in as a wholesaler to the company like Montague, which packages under a distinct brand. I've got about a minute and a half left. So in a nutshell, my journey in the Democratic Republic of Congo was that I visited in 2017. I was not convinced that I could do business there, just based on the reputational kind of branding, like it or not, that the country was saddled with. But I ended up in a city called Kolwezi, which is the largest mining town really on earth, certainly in Africa. They have close to 1,000 mines. Most of them are active, artisanal and commercial. But what I noticed was that they were completely food dependent, particularly on grains. We're talking legumes, beans, wheat, and maize. And so with the advent of the creep of the drought, that has affected Kolwezi in terms of delaying the rains, and DRC gets good rains. With the advent of the Ukraine Russia conflict, that spiked maize prices, it spiked cooking oil prices. And then with COVID, COVID brought some very unique supply chain challenges to the market. So we were able to facilitate an agreement, and we are now busy with our pre-site development and looking at areas for fencing and making sure that we're close to the Lobito rail line so we can start pouring our foundations for our grain bins. We will have 6 5,000-ton grain bins holding about 30,000 tons of grain, and we will have 2 dryers that can facilitate, I think it's 200 tons an hour in terms of drying grain that comes out of the field wet. So whether you're at a fairly sophisticated level within the agribusiness value chain, whether you're at a very basic level, you can be at a very, very basic level, providing a very, very basic service at a low remuneration. But if you're blessed with a high population like Malawi, when I was there, it was 9 million. Today, it's about 22 million. That just suggests huge opportunities across the value chain for distribution, for services, repairs, for mechanization, semi-mechanization. And I think I'll yield now, but this is a discussion I think that can carry over to the Q&A. But again, thank you, my fellow presenters. We love the region. Thank you, Moja, and thank you, listening audience. I hope you will consider this time well spent. Thank you.
Amazing. That is so great. So thank you so much, Forrest P. Branch, for an amazing presentation and take us through great insights. So now I'm opening the questions. Maybe before everyone else, if Her Excellency Ambassador Chambo is still around, maybe you can switch on your mic and your camera if you have any specific questions. Okay, maybe she's trying to connect. So I'll start with what has been sent on the Q&A. The first question is going to our first presenter. Actually, is our guest, Dr. B. How do we ensure that the policies as well as bylaws of our respective local municipalities align themselves with our agricultural practice? How do we ensure that the policies as well as bylaws of our respective local municipalities align themselves with our agricultural practice?
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I actually saw the first question from Tepi. When I was trying to respond to it, it disappeared. But let me start with the one for the municipal bylaws. My advice.
I can just add in, I think for Tepi it was what specific policy changes? Was it that one?
Yes, it was several questions, which I can still
policy changes and okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can still come back to it, maybe after responding to the one for the local municipalities. My advice would be that the way municipalities operate, when they've got bylaws, they normally circulate them around the community. For an example, if it's a policy with regards to the local economic development, ensuring sustainability of cooperatives that are funded by the municipality. So the bylaw will be distributed or will be opened for inputs from the community members. And it is only after that when the council sits, council would then approve those bylaws or policies that affects the clients or the community members. So my advice would be to make those inputs, to actively participate in the municipal activities. Thanks, Elizabeth. Can I then move to the question from Tshepiso?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much. I think, Tshepiso, you had about 3, 4, 5 questions, and the first one was with regards to the policy changes. I would say that what needs to be changed there is in terms of the improving access to finance or funding as well as markets. Currently we have about 2.5 million, small scale farmers that are operating or occupying only 1.4 million hectares of land in South Africa. Whereas when on the other side, in terms of the commercial farming units, they are occupying about 4,122. And that on its own says that there's a need for change in terms of access to land, as well as any other opportunities, whether it's to market, as well as finances. So those changes are required to be able to improve access for our small scale farmers. And then also in terms of training, focus training in terms of the stages of the businesses. Most of the time, if training is taking place, there's no segregation in terms of the level of the business. There's also a need for inputs in terms of the incubation of the agripreneurs. Remember, the aim here is to get more people who will be the commercial farmers, but one needs to agree that there's a need for capacitation, and that capacitation needs to be accelerated by the policy changes. Maybe lastly, I can talk about curriculum changes in our country. AgriSeta had an Agri-Edu symposium where we talked mostly in terms of the fact that we are producing more graduates. Yet on the other side, the industry, the captains of the industry, the farmers there, the employers are saying what is produced does not talk to what we require for the future of our business. So that need, it's there. Those are the changes that I would say we need to put in terms of our curriculum to be aligned to the demand of the industry. Your second question was talking to the benefits in terms of how would you benefit from the partnership between AgriSeta and the University of Johannesburg. The benefit would come in terms of when there is a funding that is allocated to UJ. If, for an example, it's learnership. Remember, would fund learnership for either the employed or the unemployed. If you are still growing an upcoming agripreneur, you may need to capacitate your learners, or you may need to grow your business. But remember, we are a sector that deals with training and development in terms of skills within the agricultural sector. And then with regards to your third question about balancing the need for short-term economic gain vis-a-vis the sustainable agricultural practices, I would say that there's a need for training in terms of sustainable agricultural practices. Remember, others would be funded or would start a business that would not even go far because of the short-term gain. They focus on the now and without thinking of the future. So there's a need for that, creation of that awareness or capacitating agripreneurs to be able to think of the future rather than just the now. And then also, in terms of researching the product that you are focusing on, or the commodity, to check whether is it gonna be a long-term thing, is it a seasonal thing? So most of our agripreneurs, they don't go far because of, I would say, insufficient, not necessarily lack, but insufficient research and development in terms of the focus of the business, the commodities thereof. And then you also raised a question in terms of I think this is your last question with regards to question 4 was with regards to the supporting role in terms of technology. What role will technology play in terms of supporting agripreneurs? And I would say that where I stand, it helps, it enhances efficiency in your business as an agripreneur. In a way, it also reduces costs and also improving access to opportunities, whether market or any other opportunities that will definitely grow your business. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Maybe the last one. Would like to know if you have a pilot urban farm in South Africa, and does AgriSeta offer funding for commercialization?
Okay, the answer there would be a no. What we are offering or what we are funding as AgriSeta, our mandate is to capacitate, it's skills development. Hence, when I started my presentation, I indicated that we have been established, or the entity has been established in terms of Section 3A of the Skills Development Act. So most people confuse our mandate as well as the mandate of the Department of Agriculture. So our sole mandate, Elizabeth, it's skills development, training, whether for the employed or the unemployed within the agricultural sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. B. So quickly to Faith, how effective has the drone technology been to your business, and what challenges do you face with this technology? There is a mentioning that in your presentation, some did not hear any of the challenges. So maybe apart from this, you can just add some of the challenges that you have been encountering. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. So drone technology has really been helpful for me as an agripreneur. Currently, we have used drone technology in mapping our two properties, mapping our two farms, in designing, knowing how water is moving. We've also used drone technology in tree mapping, using them to identify trees that are not doing very well. And considering that these properties are also quite big, drones, we have also used them for surveillance on the two properties for security. So drone technology has helped us a lot, but this is not all that we would like to do. There's so much that the drones can do that we haven't still harnessed. We would like to go deeper, be able to use the drones for multispectral and thermal imaging. We want to be able to dive deeper into precision agriculture, irrigation, be able to use the drones to know for soil moisture and the health of our soil. We just want to dive deeper into this technology in that way. But currently, it has benefited us a lot, and we are looking forward to more. Yeah, and someone's mentioned that we did not talk about our challenges, and yes, I did not talk about them. And I'm not going to talk about the basic challenges that a lot of people have faced and talked about, like lack of financing or access to land, but some of the unique challenges that I have also met has been vandalism. So because we are working with low income in low income areas, sometimes because of poverty, it has been difficult to put up structures in areas and be able to protect it effectively. So vandalism has been one of the problems that we're facing as young entrepreneurs, agripreneurs. In big investments, you have some of the things stolen and stuff like that. And another problem that I can also point out is high cost of technology, of modern technology and inputs. Some of these initiatives, high tech, it's expensive stuff. So for agripreneurs, it's not something that you can just easily buy. Collaboration has been one of the biggest keys. Some of these drones that I'm talking about, we don't own them as a farm, but we're using them as a collective. So those are some of the ways that we have managed to curb these problems. So quickly, I can just point out on those two biggest challenges. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So we are running of time, but I believe every participant here is also on our WhatsApp forum. You are encouraged to keep on posting on WhatsApp forums your questions, and we should be able to take that up. And there's some concerns about presentations. Yes, we are going to share with you the presentations and their contacts there. So I saw some you wanted to get in touch with Daniel. So Daniel will be available for you and all other presenters. So be assured that the presentations, they will be shared on the WhatsApp forum. Let me just take one question for rest. There is a question on how available are you to, oh, not that one. I wanted to find out how I can get more information about your company in DRC. Transportation and distribution is the greatest challenge in Africa, particularly with road network and cross-border exportation and importation challenges. How are you navigating such challenges? This is Arfas Banda from Agrimax, Malawi. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me be brief. I know the time is short. So the road network in Southern Africa is the best road network anywhere in Africa, in terms of the Maghreb nations in North Africa, West Africa, or East Africa. East and West Africa have made some sizable investments in their public road infrastructure. Having said that, I operate off of the concept of where there is a will, there is a way. And so if you've ever been to the border of Kasumbalesa between Zambia and DRC, that border is only 90 kilometers from Lubumbashi, and you'll see a lorry load, a 40-foot container of frozen fish from Namibia, Walvis Bay, being unloaded by young men and women with these bicycles. They're not really designed for riding. They're more push bicycles. They can unload a 40-foot container in about 4.5, 5 hours, and they will push that across the border. So and I don't know if you share this, but my philosophy is I just make things happen. I'm a pretty simple guy. You know, I've got 3 university degrees. I've got all of the credentials if people want to engage that. But I operate at a really pragmatic level. Part of engaging, for example, and being successful with retail grocers, supermarket chains, you've got Spar, you've got, I think combined, I did some research before this, there are 8,000 retail supermarkets just within the Southern Africa region. And most of us are coming from a subsistence farming background where we produce to eat, we produce to live, we produce to consume, and we produce mainly according to the season. A cropping calendar is a monthly calendar where you're producing a crop throughout the year. During the wintertime, your cultivation, your yields will go way down because of temperature or dryness. But you have to, if you want to be successful, go and sit down with your buyer at Food Lovers, at ShopRite, at Spar, at Pick n Pay, at Checkers. In Namibia, we have some other brands, but USave across Southern Africa, OK Grocer. Sit down with them. Ask them what they have problems buying. Ask them what the quality of their, if you're in fruit and veg, of their fruit and veg is. Ask them what schedule and what quantities, what frequencies they procure. I mean, you may find that, for example, with cabbage, I remember, I think it was the representative for a very large chain in Namibia. He wanted 30 tons a month of cabbage. I think it was paying in those days about 15,000 Rand, 15,000 Namibian dollars per ton. So you've got to, you don't produce things and then hope to sell them. You go to the market where people are buying and you discover what the quantities are and what the product mix is. And as soon as you sort that out, you may provide 2.5% of the annual tonnage, but that might end up being 800 tons a year. And so that could be lucrative. But I would encourage you, be bold, go and talk to people. I'm convinced that the solutions to our challenges in Southern Africa are within Southern Africa, but we have to make more of an effort in terms of communicating, relating, and engaging one another. But just stop what you're doing. You know, my name is John Doe. I'm from Puka Village or in Cheyu Village, and I want to go. I'm going to find out how much beetroot you purchase per month, because I've got 10 hectares, and I believe that if we rotate that, we could give you at least 3 tons a month. And that's the way to deal with supermarkets, at least on the horticulture side. In terms of the roads, make a plan. I mean, you know, find a way. When the road, typically our roads in the winter season are a little bit better than in the rainy season once you get away from the bigger cities in most of the countries in Southern Africa. But people have something called willpower, and they will unleash that willpower when necessity, you know, is tapping them on the shoulder. Necessity is the mother of innovation or invention. So that's my answer.
Thank you so much for a very comprehensive response there. And at this juncture, I just want to thank all our speakers, starting from Dr. B, Faith, Tshepiso, Daniel, and Forrest for amazing presentation and taking us through this webinar, the first webinar in 2025. And I would also like to thank all our participants in this webinar. And now I hand over to Stephen. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for giving us your time. We know we've gone over, but the speakers today have been compelling, the stories inspiring. And there's 2 things that I would like to leave you with as we close out this webinar, number 4. The first point that I'd like to bring to you is exactly what Dr. B spoke about at the beginning. Look down at your hands, look and see what you have that you can take, that you can combine with others, that you can work toward, and realize that the solution to the problem of too many imports and not enough exports, the problem with capacitation, all of these different challenges, you can meet these challenges. You have the capacity, you have the willpower, you have the resources within yourself and within your community to find the answers to chart a new path for 2025. Moja will help with this, our partners will help with this, but you have the capacity to do this. The second key point that I would leave with you is that this entire webinar series, when we first started, and this is webinar number 4, we will continue these webinars, but what we have experienced is an overwhelming demand to go further. And so part of the strategy, and we will be telling you more about this over the coming days and weeks, is to transition these webinars into incubation programs and then into master classes. And just in terms of the brilliant content that you've heard today from our speakers, some of which had more time to develop, like Forrest, but all of our agripreneurs have incredible stories and incredible learning that they have done that they want to make available to you in these master classes. So part of the future of these master classes will be found in Moja Academy, and even the ability, like Forrest and others have spoken about, to connect with others around you to become part of the direct or indirect value chain link can be, I believe we can facilitate that through the digital technologies that are already available, potentially through the Moja app and in many other ways as well. So we look forward to ongoing interaction with you. Please check out the WhatsApp channels, continue to monitor that. We will be coming back to you with our next webinar on February 6th, same place, same time. So be sure to keep that in mind and be looking for it. Remember, look down at your hands. You have the capacity. You have the power. You have the vision to move forward in 2025. Thank you very, very much. Thank you again to all of our speakers, Elizabeth, and all of our key guests in the audience. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you and bye, everyone. Yeah,
Thank you
this
very
was
much.
really
And
great.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, colleagues.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.